So today's part on followership is really to give y'all an idea of what I'm kind of expecting from your LTP work. Basically, what I do a lot with teams is I use the concept of followership to talk about being a great teammate. And I do that, I set it up a little bit, and sometimes this is a 3-hour workshop, and sometimes I've done this in 4-part Zoom series. And so I've tried to kind of condense it for y'all so that we can cover it in parts 3 and part 4 of the followership series. And so today we're going to be talking about being a great teammate, and we're going to kind of set up the conversation to have in part 4. And so if you have questions along the way that tie this to your LTP stuff, like if we want to use this as kind of a learning opportunity for putting that workshop together, then please stop me. It doesn't have to be about this particular presentation. It can be about LTP, because I want to set y'all up for success with that. Okay. So basically I'm taking the theory of followership, and I've built a workshop around being a great teammate. And so I'm using followership to teach teammate behaviors and values, right? So that would be like my LTP theory and issue. So let's get going. So we're going to talk about being a great teammate. So what do y'all see here when you look on the screen? What's popping out to you? So this is a workshop. Y'all will be participating. And there's not that many of you. So I probably won't do breakout rooms or anything. We'll probably just have big group discussion. So what's jumping out at you on the page?
Multiple people or groups working, or a group, I should say groups.
Yep, groups. What else?
You working together.
Or have passion.
Passion, working together. Yep. Support. Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
Being unified.
Okay. Togetherness, unified. Yeah. So, I was pretty intentional putting these slides together. I tried to think about sports. I tried to think about pop culture. I tried to think about nature, different ways that teams show up for us, right? Like teamwork isn't just a sports thing. In one of the earlier Zooms, I had said, when you are born, you are immediately a part of a team because you were born into a family. That is your first team, right? And we learn a lot of lessons about following and leadership from our families. And so I was pretty intentional with this. The Simpsons are like the longest running ever sitcom in television history. U2 is the longest, like they've been together for 40 years. Bono I don't think he's broken off and like done his own solo album. I think he's probably had a couple singles and like promotional kind of things, but I don't think he's ever like had his own album, right? And I think that's really impressive. I love the intensity from the volleyball players. Jay-Z and Beyonce are monarchs and leaders and patriarchs and leaders in pop culture and music in that industry, and nature with the birds and the ants. Has anyone ever seen ants move a piece of food? Anyone? It's some serious teamwork. Like, I don't know what happens when they get the food where they want it to go and who actually gets to eat it, but they're making stuff happen with food. And so the whole point of this slide is this is a banner that hangs in the Boston Celtics practice facility. At least it did. I don't know if it still does with all the transition that they have going on right now. But it says good teams have good players and great teams have great teammates. So that's a pretty obvious statement, but does somebody want to, Danny, maybe you want to take a shot at this? Like, why do you think they have this hanging? What is this a reminder of?
I think just like a reminder of that good players aren't gonna take you, like if take you where you want to go, you need to have like the great teams also have good players that are even better teammates. So you can there's more value in being a good teammate and being a good person than, how many points you can score, stuff like that. Like that's what makes teams great, not individuals that are just good at their sport.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Like talent only gets you so far, right? Talent can make you good. Look at the Golden State Warriors, for example, right? Clearly talented, but I do think they have a little bit of chemistry that sets them apart, right? That's allowed them to win some championships. So talent will get you to a certain point, but how we treat each other is really the separating factor. I like to call it the magic. How we treat each other is everything. And so I have a couple questions up here. And so, we're talking about teammates, so just to kind of get you guys in the right frame of mind. It's like, so what teams have you been on in your life? We've already talked about family. I know a lot of you are athletes, but just shout out some teams that you've been on. If you're married, then you have been on 2 family teams, right? And if you have in-laws, then maybe that's 3, right? So there's lots of different groups that you're a part of. So what are some teams y'all have been on? I was in show choir. Little fun fact, in middle school. Loved it.
I play high school football, and now I'm coaching football.
High school football. Yep, absolutely. Football team.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a particular position group?
I'm a linebackers coach mostly, and I help with I help with defense a lot too.
Okay, so there you go. You have teams within your team.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
else?
I'm a teacher for a class.
Yep, absolutely. Your students are your team. Your coworkers are your team.
Yeah, I'm married, so that's definitely my biggest team right now is that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That kind of stuff, he says.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just put this on Instagram yesterday, so I'm in a place to share it, but I've just finished writing my first book, and the dedication is to my sons, and I said to Nehemiah and Lincoln, my greatest leadership adventure, because parenting, just, Caleb, if you get there, it's a whole nother ball game of how well you can lead yourself and others. So I totally get that.
That's my team I'm on. I have a 5-month-old, and I'm married. So
you're living it. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. You have a boy or a girl?
little girl,
What's her name?
Elizabeth.
Oh, awesome. Do y'all have nicknames for her?
Yeah, we call her Lizzie.
Cute. I love it. I call Lincoln, our 2-year-old, I call him the Dinkers, the Dinks. And sometimes I'll call him Nugget, and he's like, I'm not the Nugget. I'm not the Nugget. Danielle knows what I'm talking about. So yeah, our families are our teams. At work, we have our teams. Does anybody have any other embarrassing show choir teams that they were part of? Anybody in the band? Not that that's embarrassing. I totally have all the admiration. See, there you
in the
go.
band.
I was a huge band geek back in the day.
What instruments did y'all play?
I played them all.
All? Montreal?
Yeah, like the only thing I didn't do how to read with it, but I come from a small enough town where they're like, oh, we need you over here today. We need you over here today. You're gonna do this. So
That's awesome. Jack of all trades. I love it. Or a jack.
I played the saxophone. That's what I played.
Like Bart or Lisa with the saxophone. See, you got a Simpsons reference in there.
And then I played the drums. So
Like I don't know. Is that
I played drum set. So
okay?
yeah.
Very cool. See all these teams that we've been on, and we've probably learned a few things from them along the way. Next question is so what were your roles on the team, right? So we've talked about being coaches and students, a member of a band, right? A spouse, a partner. So what were different roles that y'all have had on these teams? Like being born into a family as a child, you definitely are in that follower role.
yeah, and then I think until you become a sibling, I'm the oldest of 3 girls, and we're all boom, 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 and that is a whole different thing. Trying to subconsciously lead yourself and lead your siblings, I think was a really interesting task as an older sibling, because they're different people, right? But you can't get away from them the way you can get away from your teammates on sport related things or whatever. But I think being born first and into that role as a leader of your family, sibling wise, kind of I got thrown into almost only leadership roles when I was in teams, even when I didn't play very much, because I went out for all the sports, but didn't ever, wasn't a star at all of them by any means, but I liked just hanging out and being a part of the team. So found myself stuck in a lot of leadership positions over the years.
Yeah, isn't that interesting, like what birth order does? You know, it kind of like thrusts you into these certain stereotypes and expectations. I'm a firstborn as well. Is anybody else a firstborn?
Yeah, I am too.
Didn't our siblings just have it way easier?
Right? You're just like, gosh dang it, I'm over here so stressed out, so type A, and you're just chilling.
That's what I've realized recently, that all of my like type A overachievingness, you know, is really just translated into a whole bunch of anxiety as an adult. Like it's just
Yeah.
stress and anxiety, right? Living and dying by the to-do list. So
Yeah.
I think that's a great point, Abby. Does anybody else have examples of the roles on your team?
In high school, I went to a Catholic high school and we had campus ministry. So I was like, that was like the team that I was a part of. And we were all kind of leaders in our own way. So like we would organize like retreats for each grade. My high school is 7 through 12. So each person had like their grade for when they were to go on a retreat. So we had to kind of like organize the retreat and plan it. And like when there was school-wide mass, like we had to like set up for mass and like plan that kind of stuff.
Were you an altar server?
Yeah.
Of course you
Yeah.
were, 100%.
Been there, done that, girl.
Yeah, check. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, anybody else involved in like a student organization? I was I was sixth grade class president, and then I lost as a seventh grader, and that was a really, really hard lesson. Anybody else?
I did National Honor Society.
There you go. Anybody like FCA or anything like that?
No, but we had a math team in high school that are part of our speed runs. So we go to competitions, all the speed ones. So we felt pressure on that too, unfortunately.
You're a mathlete.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love all this sharing. So for you right now in your life, like, how does teamwork show up for you? You know, I know I say a lot and it's a cliche, like it takes a village. I mean, for Amanda and I to have the life that we would like to have, it requires a lot of help. I mean, Danny can attest to that. She sees it pretty much every day, and she's a part of our village. And so I know that that's how it shows up for me, is that being able to rely on our people in our community to fill in gaps and help when, you know, schedules don't line up. So that's something for me. What about y'all?
Yeah, like being in college football, you know, there's so much that we're doing on a weekly basis, and you know, having everyone kind of on the same page and doing their own stuff, but then by the end of the week having it come together is like really like important teamwork, to trust that other people are gonna like do their job.
Yeah,
And I can definitely,
go ahead, Tyrell.
sorry. I was gonna say I can definitely agree with Caleb. Being a high school coach, you know, it's not as strenuous as college football, but just having, you know, students come from high school in their personal lives, and even coaches, you know, with their personal lives, and some teachers from all different schools over the district coming to one team to kind of, you know, put everything aside to work as a team with different units and position groups to kind of make everything work in one cohesion, like make, you know, work as one, that type of thing.
I think adding on to that, I think because I also coach high school sports, and like the mentality that high school athletes have, right? It takes like, I feel like I was caught relating myself like, no, you don't do this. We did this when I was in school kind of thing. And like when I was on my team, this is how it worked. And then like implementing those similar like practices into my own team's philosophy and everything, I found myself actually doing that a lot more than I ever thought I would, like going back and referencing my own teamwork ethic and seeing it show up in my own high school teams now. Like, I think it's kind of just, I don't know, seeing it come around full circle is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a part of teamwork is passing lessons on, right? Like, and when we talk about teamwork, we're talking, part of that is that leader follower dynamic. And so I think that's what you're kind of driving home right now, Abby, is like you as the leader, as part of a team, what are you responsible for passing on, right? What is your role as leader? And this is something that's popped up for you, is like sharing those life lessons, right? Establishing the standards based on what you know to be true as the leader. So I think that's a great example. When is teamwork easy? When is it hard?
I know
would
the
say-
cliche is.
I'm sorry. You can go ahead, Marcus.
I know the cliche is, but in sports, teamwork is always easy when your team is winning.
Mhm.
Then when you're losing, it gets extremely difficult because that's when things start to get dissected a little bit more. So that's one I have to say. Definitely experienced that a couple of times.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. So it's very easy when you're up, 2, 3 touchdowns in the game and everybody's happy. But, you get down 1 or 2 touchdowns and everybody starts to get down on themselves and kind of have to talk to players more to keep their spirits up. Stay within the game, stay as a team. Don't try to do nothing outside of what we practice on scheme. Don't try to play basically hero ball. Just kind of stay within yourself and play as a team. And I've said it's worked for us this year. We had a couple of comeback victories, so I say we kind of stay together as a team a lot more than in the recent past with our team history. I'd say this team is pretty good with teamwork and staying together.
Good. I always think it's interesting that, you win and the issues are there and it feels a certain way. You lose and the same issues are there and it feels a certain way. And it's like, if we could do a better, different job of evaluating ourselves after a win, right? And don't just let the win be like the blanket that covers everything. Just because you won doesn't mean everything's going the best that it can. That's something I've had a lot of conversations with coaches about. So I think that's a great point. What else? Easy
Yeah,
or
so-
hard?
So like I think it comes back down to like marriage. I always thought it was funny, like getting into like my marriage, I thought it was always gonna be 50-50, but that's never really the case. There's times where, my wife gives 80% and I'm only able to give 20% just because of, where I'm at personally, and vice versa. And it's really easy when I'm just kind of going through the motions and she's giving, majority of the effort. But, when there's like extended periods of times where it requires me to give more effort because she's at a point right now where like she's trying to finish her like undergrad and stuff like that, like, I have to give a lot more effort, can be a little bit frustrating and like hard as teammates to understand that it's not that she doesn't want to, it's just that, I have to pick it up for, the team.
Yeah, I don't think a marriage is really ever at that 50-50 mark.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because I think, and this is, I'm just going on a tangent here, is like, I think about, well, when it's easy is when I feel really good about myself.
Yeah.
Right. And if I'm feeling really good about myself, then we probably aren't on that 50-50 mark. So I definitely understand what you're saying, Caleb, for sure.
I think that it can become easier and harder depending on the coach and like the environment that they have created. I know I've been on my I've had my experience of some crappy teams, and I feel like that if you have a cohesive environment, regardless of you're winning or losing, I think that can also play into whether or not your team dynamic works. Like I've been on some really bad teams, but like record wise, but like we had the most fun in the world because we had like a really good setup through our coach and through our environment that gave us all the opportunity to enjoy it, even if we weren't successful. But I've also had the coach that even when we are winning, it is hard to want to show back up the next day and stuff like that. Like, so I think that really plays into it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, what environment has a leader created? Is it a place where athletes feel safe? Is it a place with a little bit more toxicity than it should have? Also, on the other side of that is like, well, what kind of people do you have around you as teammates? And the whole, what you permit, you promote, and what are y'all allowing to happen as teammates for each other definitely can impact the teamwork. So I think I have one more question. I believe there were 5 on here. Yeah. So what does teammate require of you as a teammate? What does being part of a team require of you?
I would say sacrifice. That's as a, like to have my own family now. Like certain jobs I was doing as a college coach, like you're never home most of the time, and you see that take a toll on your wife and like my newborn baby now. So just sometimes you gotta sacrifice. Like I said, everybody want to coach college. Maybe it's not meant for me to coach college at the time, I mean, I got to take a step back, coach high school, just to be more hands-on at home. So I always say sacrifice with any team.
Yeah, you're sacrificing some sleep right now too, probably, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah, with the 5-month-old, you're in it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. Yesterday, Amanda and I were talking, and I was just, the writing this book has been quite the experience. And I was just telling her, I feel like I'm lost a little bit and I've kind of abandoned all the things, like get this done. And, we were just talking about like how important it is to like stay in prayer to and like pay attention to what the priority should be. Right. And I think that speaks a little bit to sacrifice, and that maybe sometimes we want to make this the priority, but need to let go of some of that for the real priorities. So what else?
I think on like the flip side of that too, because like this is my first year in college football. And so right now I'm working like 35 hours a week at a regular job, coaching college football, and I'm doing grad school. And it's taken a lot of, sacrifice from my wife, understanding that it's not, personal. It's not that like when I come home, I don't want to spend time with her. It's just I got to get some sleep in because I'm only going to get 5 hours before I have to wake up for the next day. That kind of same idea of like, sacrificing, understanding what your teammates are going through, and then, supporting them as much as you can through that.
I imagine though that you and your wife had conversations going into this season of y'all's marriage of this is probably what this is going to feel like, and it's temporary, and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
on
I
the
just had
same page going into it.
I had to make a promise for a nice vacation come December. So that was the settlement on it was, yeah, I'm not going to be around for 4 months, but then after that, we'll go somewhere where you want to go. So I'm just going to let her pick, and we're going to go wherever she wants.
There you go. I like it. Anybody else?
I would say just being there, just showing up, giving it everything you have. Like I would say, as a coach and a player for me with high school, I saw a video yesterday from a speaker. He speaks a lot around the country. Inky Johnson. He was a former Division I football player. And he just said the best thing that you can, like the best compliment you can get in sports from teammates, coaches, is just being there and being solid. Like somebody can say, "Hey, this is a solid person. This is a solid not only player, but like this person is just solid all around. Like they give it their all. They never make excuses. They just dependable. Like if I can just say that about you, that kind of what I feel like to me personally can make a great teammate. Like just anyone never having anything like they could just have, well, maybe he wasn't there all the time. He took off a play, she took off a play, so maybe just being there all the time, just being solid.
Yeah, showing up, being consistent. Yeah. These are good. Does anybody else have one they want to share?
I was just gonna say sometimes like putting your ego to the side. I know for me and like the new role that I'm in as a grad assistant, I came out of college like on a high of like being the leader of my team and being a captain, and now and being a GA, like where I thought I had everything figured out and I was like very comfortable in what I was doing and knew everything and knew a system, and now coming to a new program and having to do things that I've never done before. I think I definitely have to rely on other people more than I've ever had to, and for a lot of things, and having to admit that like I don't know how to do a lot of things can be challenging, but putting that aside and like you said, relying on your village, like that's exactly what I need in this. So like for me, it's like being vulnerable and being able to admit that like, no, I actually have no idea how to cut this film. Like, can someone help me?
Yeah, I mean, you've gone from that leadership role to now being in a followership role, but you haven't forgotten everything you learned about leading. And so you're using those things to lead yourself well in this new position, right? I think that's a great point, and you're doing great, Danielle. So I want to hear, I'm going to just throw a couple pictures on the screen. Who's a better teammate? I want to hear one for Robin and one for Jeannie, unless we just have an overwhelming. Let's just do a hand raise. Who thinks Robin's a better teammate? Who thinks Jeannie is a better teammate? Okay. Split down. Who feels strongly about Genie? Why, Abby?
Because the dude is the biggest hype man in the world. I love Aladdin. Aladdin is one of my favorite movies of all time as a child. And he is just like wants to be able to give everything he can give, but follows the rules in doing that until it comes down to he was willing to let Aladdin be everything, make the ultimate wish, and instead he gave him his freedom. Like he earned his, I don't know, his badge of honor there, I guess. And like, I don't know, I think that he's just like the ultimate bench rider. Like I spent quite a bit of time on the bench. I had some interesting coaches, but like you need a hype man like that. And I think that Genie is just awesome in that way.
I love that. I've never heard anyone talk about him as like a bench rider, like waiting his turn, and that's awesome. Yeah. Okay, next one. Best teammate. Who would you want as your teammate out of these two? Let's see a show of hands for Kim. All right, and let's see a show of hands for Beyonce. Okay, with Beyonce overwhelmingly won that round. Somebody give me a reason why. This is the easy one, guys. Come on.
Yeah,
You
the
say it.
Kardashians just bring so much drama, and like that to me is the number one like most toxic thing for any team of any kind is drama within each other, and I just don't vibe with that very well. So I personally would not.
Okay. Too much drama for your mama. Okay, last one. Where'd my mouse go? The Bulls of the Bulls Day or the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team? Okay, show of hands for the Bulls. Best teammates. We got one. Show of hands for soccer. Okay, soccer overwhelmingly won that one. Montrelius, why don't you share with us why you voted for the Bulls? You were the lone supporter.
Because they get hard at times, as you see now with documentaries coming out, that when you're playing like with somebody who's just that big of a figure, like your roles get diminished at time, and people don't respect like what you do at like when you play like Dennis Rodman, all them type of players. But now as you get into the future, you start to see they had a bigger impact than people realize. And at that time, in that moment, people don't realize, people don't see like how important it was to the success of the team. Everybody called him, oh, it's Michael Jordan, and he's the biggest superstar ever in the world at the time. And it takes years later down the line for people to realize, oh, the guys was important. Even like Steve Kerr hitting the shot, like people don't really realize, like, oh, he has had a hand in helping to win. And it's a long season at the same time. But like I said, when you're playing with people like Michael Jordan, LeBron James nowadays, you're so scrutinized to an extent that it's never your fault you win, or I mean, never your fault you lose, and it's always your fault when you don't pull it out.
Okay, I can get behind some of that. The Last Dance was a very good documentary, very eye-opening. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start thinking about who you are as a teammate, okay? And hopefully, you've had some things come up about things that you like about teammates, ways that you've been one, what is required of you, things you don't like. We don't want drama, we don't want toxicity, right? And so when you think about all the teams that you've been on in your life and like how you've done as being a teammate up to this point, what comes to your mind? And so I'm asking you 3 questions. And so to get this set up though, you have to do a little bit of prep work. And so can y'all see at the top, it says text Jana M263. Can y'all see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you're going to pull out your phone and you are going to, the phone number is that 22333. So that's the phone number. And then in the text, you're putting the Jana M263 and just send that. How can I get this to hide? Nope. you should get a text back about poll everywhere. So when everybody has that, just put your thumb up on the screen and let me see it. Okay, I'll try this. You good?
Yes, just got it.
Okay, here's the first thing I want you to think about. Because I'm gonna put some, after this, we're gonna kind of get into like questions and different types of teammates and things like that. And so the first question I want you to think about is like, when you think about the teammate that you've been most of the time, right? Which is hopefully like the teammate you want to be. What emoji would you use to describe yourself? So what you're gonna do is just pick the emoji and just send it. And you can only choose one. So just pick one and then text it.
Of like all the emojis or like just the faces?
All the emojis, everything's on.
Okay.
If you want to just tell yourself you're only using a face to make it simpler, you can. The wacky face always comes up. Who's the wacky face? Okay.
That's like if an emoji could describe my entire personality, that's right there. And then you throw the eye roll in there too, and then that's me.
I used to get in so much trouble for rolling my eyes at my mother. We're
Me
missing.
too.
We're missing. Is everyone's on there? I only see 5, and I think there's 6 of you. 1, 2, 3. Joe, we're waiting on you. Don't overthink it. We're not going to hold you to this emoji the rest of your life. Also, if you throw a black heart up there, I'm going to be worried about you. You're sweating? Is that what that is? Okay. All right. Next question. So this is who you are most of the time, which is who hopefully we want to be. When you think about those moments, looking back on yourself as a teammate that you really wish you had back, right? Maybe you didn't get it right. Maybe you weren't your best, didn't put your best self forward, right? So pick an emoji that represents you in those moments, the moments you want back as a teammate. Like you want to redo. Yep, that is always the first. Yep. Put the trophy.
I did.
What's that about?
So
I
we
think I
had a chance-
know.
we had a chance to win the championship when I was in college for my team. And I just felt like in that time moment I wasn't the best version of me. Like I was a star player of the team and kind of had a letdown game and something I wish I could have back.
All right, last question. When you think about a defining moment for you as a teammate, okay, whether that's family member, sibling, colleague, on the field, off the field, whatever, find an emoji that represents one of that moment for you.
Can you ask that one more time?
Yeah, so think about a moment that like really defined who you were as a teammate. So something that like changed you, that was impactful, and find an emoji that represents that story. So like if you had to tell a story about you as a teammate, like what was one of those moments? Okay, I'm gonna put y'all in 2 smaller breakout rooms and I want y'all to share the story. Okay, share the story that you just thought of when you put that, we have a brain, a ribbon. Okay, these are good. I want you to share the story you just thought of with each other. I'm gonna put you in 2 smaller groups of 3. If I can. Here we go. Bless you. Did y'all have enough time?
Yeah.
Y'all learn anything about each other? I love storytelling.
My first 2 years, I went to a Christian college, and you get very comfortable sharing literally every detail about your life because that's all they ask you 24/7.
I wouldn't want that.
No, it was a little extreme.
No, it's, I always like to say authenticity does not mean full disclosure.
Yeah.
You can be authentic and not tell everyone every single detail. So. Did y'all have enough time? Other group? Good. Okay. Y'all learn anything about each other? Okay. So here's kind of the part where I'm going to talk a little bit, if I can figure out how to advance to the next screen. Give me a second. I don't know what's going on. Let me get to the next. Let me see if I can do this and then. So when I talk with teams about, what kind of teammate are you? Can you just plug it in for me in your back?
Oh, I thought you said bring it to you.
Oh, I might have. Sorry. Thank you. When I talk with teams about being a great teammate, what kind of teammate are you? I pose these two questions to them first to kind of get them thinking about two things, right? Your value, like what you're bringing, right? And then your response, like how do you respond to things, right? We talk a lot about when things happen. It's not about what happened. It's about how we respond to them. So there are two questions I'm going to ask you that kind of talk about these two parts of you as a teammate. And so the first one is, from where do you draw your personal worth, right? And this is what I'm talking about, your value. Like, how do you know you're valuable? How do you know you're good? How do you know you're contributing? Where do you go to find these things about yourself? Are you someone who looks more within? Like you go internal, you know you're good, you have high self-belief, high self-assuredness, you're confident, whatever self-word you want to put there, efficacy. Do you go looking inside of yourself because you had deep down, you just have this belief that you know that you're worthy, you know that you're valuable, you know that you're contributing, right? Or are you someone who needs to go a little bit more external? Do you need to ask your friends? Do you need to call your mama? Does your boo or bae or whatever need to tell you how good you look, right? Like, are you someone who needs some of that as well? And here's something to remember. Not one's better than the other, right? This is about awareness. This is an exercise in self-awareness, because the other part too is like, we're probably a little bit of both all the time. I think you probably have heard about, like, there's a spectrum of being introvert and extrovert. Just because you're an introvert doesn't mean you're way over here. You just could have, slightly more introvert tendencies. And so think of this as a little bit of a spectrum, right? So, but from where do you draw your worth? Do you have to go looking for it, or do you go to yourself? The second question is, where do you go when things don't go your way? It's a bad day, you got a test score you weren't expecting, you got a flat tire, your boss gave you some news you weren't ready for, you're not getting the playing time that you want, right? Maybe you didn't make captain, whatever it is. There's lots of ways for things to not go our way. There's probably more ways for things to not go our way than for them to go our way if you really sit down and think about it, right? So being able to handle obstacles and adversity is really important. So as a teammate though, where do you go? Like, where do you go when things don't go your way? Are you someone who sticks with it, right? Do you roll up your sleeves and dig deeper, try things differently, research, learn more, right? Ask questions? Or are you someone who withdraws? Do you distance yourself? Do you isolate yourself? Do you retreat? Okay. You can probably start thinking about these things in your head right now. Any reactions or questions about these two questions? Anything you want clarity on or talk about or understand what I'm saying? Okay, so where do you draw your worth? Where do you go when things don't go your way? Now, I have revamped this talk on be a great teammate in the last 3 months. I've learned a lot from the groups I've been working with. One of the things I've changed is the within, with it, without, withdraw. Those used to say different things. I've changed them to all be starting with, because when you're a teammate, you were always with other people. Even when you're withdrawing, you are still part of a team. So no matter what you're doing, within, without, with it, withdraw, it impacts the team. So that language is very intentional and something not to be overlooked. All right. So what I want y'all to do for the next till we have the followership for, which hopefully you come to, or if you can't come to, you can record it, watch the recording. I want you to track yourself on those 2 questions. Where do you draw your worth? Where do I go and doesn't go my way? How am I doing with those things? Where do I see myself falling? Right. And then next time we come back, I'm going to fill in the spaces on that grid with different behaviors, characteristics, examples, names of it. And you can kind of see, like, where am I most of the time? Where do I go in those moments that I want back? What's happening in those moments? And how do I get back to being who I want to be most of the time? That's where we're going to take the conversation. I use Dory because she is my favorite teammate. You'll see her again. I use her a lot when talking about servant leadership, followership. To me, she is the ideal teammate. And so we will talk a little bit more about that next time. If anybody has any questions, we can, good to leave you with those thoughts. Maybe it's just like every night on my notes app, it's like I just type a tweet, right? Or I just type, a thought or something. It's just that easy to track, but just be mindful of it. Where do you draw your worth? Where do you go and doesn't go your way? Okay. Everybody good?
Mhm.
Has everybody been able to kind of see how I'm taking what I've learned about being a follower and putting it into an actionable workshop? Follower will show up in part 2 because being a follower is being the ideal teammate for me. So was this helpful? Okay. All right. Well, y'all have a great day. If you need me, shoot me a text.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.